Bonjour mes amis, hi guys. So I finally added a Tudor Prince Date Chrono to my collection. I had been eyeing these for quite a while in the dealer shops, wondering how come the ones with the straight flanks, named the big blocks, usually are trading so high compared to the ones with the rounded cases. I had tried one of these a while back and thought it was really a lovely watch. Was very tempted. Then I delayed the purchase a little bit. Looking at it again, I had to go for this one with this copper dial, which we'll call salmon dial. It's a little watch collector pleasure after all to own a salmon type of dial. When I tried it on the wrist again, it just felt right at home. The quality was there. This one is in pristine condition and with the papers. It's from 2008, so pretty late in the run of these watches. And I just love the rounded case, which breaks up that big block of metal. This is from the 79-200 series and the 79-100 series, and the previous 4-digit references had those sheer flanks, very similar to the Tudor Black Bay, of course, including the Black Bay GMT. And they fetch, around $7,000-8,000, depending on the condition. $7,000-8,000, even more for very super clean conditions. I mean, these watches a few years ago would trade around maybe $2,500 for something very nice. Long before these rounded cases, which are also gaining in price now, trading upwards of $4,000 up to $7,000 for the ones with the rotating bezel, and the more special ones. The big blocks had been picked by watch collectors as collectibles, and prices rose beyond the $5,000-6,000 point, beyond even $7,000. But you see many of them in the dealer's windows, so they've kind of right now on a plateau. Of course, right now prices are crazy. Everybody wants the Daytona. It's trading over twice its retail price. Is that going to translate into more appreciation for the Tudor big blocks and for the Tudor Prince dates? It's going to be very interesting to see. This one I paid $4,500 US. It's getting beyond its intrinsic value, the metal, the savoir-faire, the movement inside. So it is definitely already quite a bit of a collectible, but I think there's more potential to appreciate, and I think more people will appreciate the rounded case, which is much closer to the Daytona. The thing that the older series have is when they were called, usually before Prince Date, it was called Oyster Date. They would have Rolex parts, Rolex crown on the crown, Rolex case back. And before Tudor introduced with this series their own bracelet, they would come with the Oyster bracelet. So that's why when you look up those references, you see quite a bit of a mix and match. Also, this one has the tiger on the dial, but you have non-tiger of the 79-200 series, the 280, 270, 260. So again, there's a segmentation of the market, and when there is segmentation, it from the Rolex vintage market, it means dealers can ask for more. And in this series as well, you have very different dials. So this one here is one of those printed dials, but the classic white, gray, and black would have stick applied indices. All of them have a bit of lume, and legibility is those chronographs. This one, sort of the dark gray on salmon, is not the most legible, and at night the lume is not really gonna last you all night. You have to squint quite a bit, but otherwise the build is really strong. The inner links there are solid. The clasp is nice. It's a friction clasp. This one is very crisp, very fresh. It's not the level of modern Rolex, but it's sure as good as the old stuff from Rolex themselves there, with a press clasp. It's very comfortable, wears amazing. My wrist is 17 centimeter. It would wear very well on 16, 15 centimeter wrists. I love this profile, very Daytona-ish, very close to how a Milgauss wears. Now, I'm not going to drag too long into the historical, but 1970, Tudor introduced their first chronograph. It had a sort of gray orange type of colors. It had a fixed steel bezel. There was a reference with a black plastic tachymeter bezel, and then they had planned to do a rotating 12-hour GMT type of bezel. That one was just a prototype. 2 years later, when the Monte Carlo colorway that we know very well, with the blue, came out, then they had all three bezels in production for sale, and Tudor reintroduced that watch in the Heritage Collection, the blue one with the Monte Carlo color, with the rotating 12-hour bezel. Now, 76, Tudor introduced the Valjoux 750 automatic movement into their chronograph. So that was a good 12 years before Rolex asked Zenith to produce automatic calibers for their own Daytona. What was interesting there is that the Valjoux is fairly thick, so the flanks were very straight, sheer flanks, and that's how the watch became known as the big block. The first references were 4-digit references, then they became 5 digits, 79 100 series. The 79 180 would have this type of bezel. The 160 would have, again, the plastic tachymeter black bezel, and then the 170 would have the rotating 12-hour bezel. So most watches will be Panda, reverse Panda, or silver dials, but there was 1 or 2 exotic dials as well. Then 95, everything changes. The 200 series, 79 200, the 79 280, like this, the 260 with the black bezel, this time in aluminum, no more plastic, and then the 270 with the rotating 12-hour bezel. The case now is rounded, which I find a lot more pleasing. Rolex mentions are disappearing. You have a shield now on the crown. Tudor back. It might not have happened overnight, but more or less that's what you're going to see. And at first they still had the oyster bracelet, but then they moved on to the Tudor's own bracelet, this one. Also, the dial changed to a Tudor Prince date, and at first there would be no Tiger, and then there was this association with Tiger Woods, the golf player, and you would have the Tigers. Different colors of dials, black, white, yellow, very cool looking yellow there with black hands and red. My favorite colors being the Belgian flag colors. You have cream dials, you have a very striking coral type of red and green, and a few other things like that. So a lot of interesting choices. For me, it was this one, which happened to be in perfect condition. I love this color, but I am tempted to add a 70 reference, so one with a 12-hour bezel, to add this GMT complication, which is so cool. What I like with Tudor, it's so interesting that you have the familiarity with the Rolex products for many of their models, but at the same time, I like that this one here has a bit more of Tudor things into it. Some people will value more having Rolex bits. I value more this, but at the same time, it's closer to the Rolex Daytona having a rounded case. So it's interesting how prices are gonna evolve. I think there's room to run on these ones. Just pick the dial you prefer. Here, if we look a bit at the dial, you have those concentric circles there on all three inner dials. The minute tracks there, second tracks are on the plain section. Sunray dial, beautiful play with the light, sort of a 3D effect to the indices, but they almost look like they are applied, but I do believe it's just printed. The hands are not quite black, more like dark gray, and thank God there's loom on them, otherwise you could hardly make them even in the daylight. At night, as I said, loom it's there, let's say, but it's not quite the Black Bay diver. So you have the tachymeter scale there. Well, it just says units per hour, really. Everything here is very Rolex-ish. Bit of a drag to unscrew, but the actuation is very lovely, very, very smooth with a nice push, nice click. It's very precise, very, very precise there. I can show you the reset of the chronograph. There you go. Oh, no, there you go. You have to go all the way to reset this. You know, it's almost a drag that the watch is in such good condition, being a sort of a starter collectible. Hey, let me know a bit what you think about the collectability of these series. Do you think they will surpass one day the sheer flanked ones? Anything is possible. I feel that these wear very well. You know, I don't have a big block. Well, this is also a big block in a way, but it's attenuated. But I don't have a big block to compare, but it probably wears pretty much like the current Black Bays, and everybody feels like, yeah, it's quite heavy-handed. So I wouldn't be surprised if eventually, as the Rolex drought continues, people will look even more at these, and prices could rise further, although they already reached $7,000 price point, at which you have a lot of options on the market from GLC, Breitling, Omega, and Rolex themselves. If you can get the Steel Sports at retail, but even paying a small premium, you can still get into Rolex nice Steel Sports. So that's probably going to be the ceiling for these pieces, but you never know. At some point, maybe dealers are going to run out. But for now, this ample supply of these, so maybe it's something you should consider. I thought it was fitting very well in my collection. It was something I wanted to experience. So main thing I can say after a few days of ownership is that I'm really happy that I took that step. So up to you. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it, how you feel about its market. As always, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, by the way, most people watching the videos have not subscribed, so it would be great if you give me a subscription. That would really help. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Bye bye.